what's up, guys? Kane here with the XBLA fans. Now, I like to do kind of just like a recap on the various sales games that happen each week, but since Xbox Game Pass has finally been publicly announced and given the full list, I wanted to kind of go through this and just kind of talk about a few of these. Obviously, I'm going to skip over a lot of stuff in here. There's 100 games. If I went in here on detail on each of these, it would be a very, very long video, and I don't think anybody's really looking for that. But I do think there are some things in here that you really should look at that you may not have thought of. So, obviously, IDARB was previously Games with Gold, but this game is pretty good, and honestly, if you're an achievement whore, you're going to be able to pick it up real easy. Easy 1K. Kingdom of Keflings and A World of Keflings are honestly two of the most fun and unique games that I've played on XBLA. Like, they're just really, really simple. Like, they're just enjoyable. Like, there's something about them that's just really cool. I'm going to kind of skip over Age of Booty and all the Banjo-Kazooies. Hopefully you've played Banjo-Kazooie. Obviously, those are available as well in the Rare Replay Pack, which is pretty much still a fantastic deal. Bionic Commando, I'm going to skip, as well as Bioshock. Bioshock is one of my absolute favorite games. If for some reason you have not played Bioshock and Bioshock Infinite, you really need to. Now, Blood Bowl is one I actually do want to talk about a little bit, just because Blood Bowl is something that I don't think a lot of people have played, but it's really unique. So it's kind of an RPG, like, tabletop experience for, like, football. And it's just really neat. So there's some cool things going on with this. You're playing more or less football. It's a little bit rugby at times, I think, and, like, I don't know. I just had fun with it, and it's one of those things that, like, it's going to appeal to RPG players and, tabletop strategy type people, as well as some sports people, and it kind of just, it's kind of a sleeper game that I feel like, honestly, people need to give a chance. So I would definitely say this is one that you may not have thought of, but you should really give a look. I'm going to skip over to Braid. Braid was our #1 pick for best XBLA BC games. This game's fantastic. It's really good. You can beat it in probably 1 or 2 sittings, and it's a really good game. Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, that's an easy 1,000 gamer score. Congrats. It's also a very good game. I'm going to skip through some of these. Comic Jumper's okay. I'm not a huge fan of some of these other ones here. I actually just picked up Dark Void on sale, so I can't really comment on that one. Defense Grid 1 and 2 were both fantastic games, even though that one was obviously Games with Gold. Very, very solid. Dig Dug, again, another easy gamer score. Yeah, I think it's only the 200 because it's the 360 version, but still, it's not too bad. I just picked up this Devil May Cry on sale myself. I'm going to skip through these. Electronic Super Joy is going to be very difficult. It's a very challenging platformer. If you're into that type of stuff, you might enjoy it a lot, though. Obviously, Fable's fantastic. Farming Sim is, like, it's a very different one, and that's just showing kind of the diversity of what they're kind of putting on here. And that's something I've got to give them credit for. I think they've done a very good job, just all the way to F so far, on getting a very diverse lineup. You have stuff like Blood Bowl and Defense Grid that are kind of strategy focused. You got some shooters. You got some very good platformers. You've got some very good indie games. Like, both of these are fantastic indie games. Some of the best ones that have been made. You've got some pretty big AAA stuff, at least when it released. Bioshocks, Devil May Cry, again, like, that's one I just picked up because I wanted to play it. Going through some of these. Flock, I believe, was interesting. I don't recall it too closely. Obviously, you have pretty much the entire Gears of War collection here, thanks to Ultimate Edition. Halo 5 is pretty much the big megaton you're going to see on this list. Obviously, you need some big quality AAA games to kind of, carry this for the average user. And I think that's definitely going to do that. Spartan Assault is one I actually need to go back and finish. Iron Brigade is the one that we gave Game of the Year one of the years. Wasn't my personal Game of the Year that year because I think Toy Soldiers Cold War was out that year, as well as a few other games. And it's still a fantastic game. It used to be called Trench, if you remember that. Microsoft's in a habit of changing names recently for trademark reasons. As you know, Beam just became Mixer. Now we've got Joe Danger 2 and Joe Danger. Those are both really good. Definitely worth checking those out. As well as Joyride Turbo, if I recall correctly, is really a sleeper hit that like should have been a little more noticed than it was. If I'm getting that one, as long as I'm not mixing this one up with something else, I think this is the one that I thought was really solid. Jump Jet Rex, again, kind of a little bit like Electronic Super Joy. It's gonna be a little bit more on the difficult side, but it's interesting that it's in here. Cameo is a fantastic game. If by some fluke you didn't play it, absolutely fantastic. Night Squad was Games with Gold as well, but again, it's an easy 1K for anybody who didn't happen to pick it up then. It's going to be pretty good for that. Caillou, I have not played. This is one I actually, like, I think this is like the first game on this entire list, honestly, that I'm personally interested in, because this is one I have not done. So when I do my 14-day trial, I'm going to probably be playing that in Lumo. Layers of Fear is an amazing game. It was Games with Gold, I believe, but it was absolutely amazing. It's totally worth playing if you have not played it. Batman, Lego games are just great. I'm glad they have a Lego game. You know, it's a good thing. Mad Max is kind of another one of those heavy hitters that they managed to swing, and I got to give them props for having Mad Max and Halo 5. That's pretty solid right there. Massive Chalice is another fantastic strategy game. Highly, highly recommend this one for anyone who's into games like XCOM. It was Games of Gold, but I loved it. And if you just happen to be getting into the system now, it's totally worth it. Like, some of these games are going to be really, really good if you just happen to be getting into Xbox One now. Max Curse of the Brotherhood, I believe, was Games of Gold as well, but it is a pretty solid game all the same. Mega Coin Squad is kind of a pretty fantastic game for what it is. It's a nice little platformer, and honestly, it's pretty solid. Mega Man Legacy Collection, I'm not a huge Mega Man guy, but I know there are a lot of people who are, so I'm sure they're going to be excited about that one. Let me get rid of that phone before it like goes nuts on us here. Monday Night Combat. Okay, so this is a fantastic game if the player base comes back. We actually discluded this one from our best BC games because Monday Night Combat did not have a player base. So if Games Pass can suddenly give it a player's base, that's amazing. If not, this one is a kind of a bummer to see just because it may not be playable. It just really needs to have enough people for it to work. I've got all these like random downloads. Those are all my files, by the way, for anybody who's kind of wondering, that end up getting tweeted for pictures on our Twitter feed when we go streaming. So you got Ms.Splosion Man. Ms.Splosion Man is fantastic. That was on our 20 best XBLA BC games, as was N+, another great game. If you go all the way over here, Pac-Man CEDX was also on there. Another fantastic kind of BC game. These are really solid. Like, they've done a very excellent job in nailing down some good XBLA games. I kind of wish they would have labeled them XBLA and not just 360, because it's kind of misleading on, you know, like, okay, how much gamer score is there, you know, and various other things. I don't know why they did that decision, because, like, it's much more clear. Like, the branding on XBLA was always cleaner than it was on ID at Xbox or anything like that. Like, I think the average person knew more about XBLA back then. And I think, like, the branding would have been worth keeping. It's definitely kind of a bummer they've kind of abandoned that trademark in a sense. Payday 2 Crime Wave, I've not played this one, but I've heard some decent things outside of the fact that I think there's some issues with, like, kind of how the community feels about that game anymore. Pump BMX it's decent. I have that one. Resident Evil 0 is actually on my backlog. Roundabout is a fantastic game that a lot of people probably would not have picked up otherwise. I'm kind of glad to see that one in here. That's a nice little pickup here. Saints Row 4, again, another one of those big AAA titles that if for some reason you haven't played it, it's nice to see it in here. I actually just picked up Sam & Max, both of those, Sam & Max and Scream Ride. I picked up all three of those in the recent sale, which is kind of a bummer. The amount of stuff I've like grabbed that's in here that I grabbed in recent sales. Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, fantastic game for people who are into that type of gameplay. Spelunky, again, another one of the games, as well as Stacking, that was in our 20 best XBLA BC games. Splosion Man's pretty good as well. Suretin is one that I don't think we were a huge fan of. Strider is pretty solid. Super Mega Baseball is one of my favorite games. I love this game. It's nice to see a sports title in here as well. Obviously, that was an area they were slightly lacking in, as well as, you know, kind of like, oh, there's nothing like Forza or anything, but I think there's obvious reasons why those are not in here. Sunset Overdrive, fantastic, fantastic game as well. Super Time Force, another great game, even though I believe it was also Games of Gold. Very solid game, though. Book of Unwritten Tales, this is easy gamer score for people who are looking for that. It's kind of nice to see, you know, kind of a story-driven game in here. That's something that is kind of lacking outside of, you know, Sam and Max over here. I mean, I guess there's also Layers of Fear. Now, Golf Club, again, another sports title. They're busting out some golf this time. It's kind of nice. The Maw, that was barely cut from our XBLA BC list. The Swapper, another great, easy gamer score game. Toy Soldiers and Toy Soldiers Cold War. I think Toy Soldiers Cold War is still the best of the franchise, for me personally. I thought it was just done really well. It's just a very solid game, and I very much like this franchise. I think this is definitely worth checking out, even now. Obviously, XCOM is a fantastic franchise as well. And you can see that there's Viva Pinata and wrestling down here, which is pretty cool to see. So, like, all in all, I think they did a very excellent job with this list. And I totally forgot, there was NBA 2K16. I think I missed skipping over that earlier. So there are some decent sports titles, actually. But, like, it's a very solid list. For me personally, I don't really know if Game Pass is worth it for me. But I'm kind of a weird instance where I buy a lot of games and I have a pretty deep backlog. However, for somebody who just happens to be joining into the Xbox ecosystem, this is a really, really solid deal. And that's something that's pretty sweet. So, like, if you end up deciding you really like something, you do get discounts. You get to download and play in full fidelity. You're not having to stream this. And it's, you know, it's going to be able to be one low monthly price. That's pretty sweet as well. So, like, they've done a decent job with this. Obviously, you can see these are what they think are their heavy hitters. I'd mostly agree with them. These are some pretty solid games, but I definitely think they're actually underselling the high quality they have here on some of these XBLA BC games. Like, they really killed it with XBLA. That's something that I'm really impressed with, is their XBLA selection was amazing. Like, they picked really, really, really good games. These are not just, like, random filler indie games. These are some of the top ones that are out. And that's really cool to see. Is that you're not really like, on Xbox One, I feel like a lot of these, unfortunately, are Games with Gold games. Whereas, like, they really, really killed it on the XBLA BC stuff. Like, they really did well. So I gotta give them props for that. Like, that's just really impressive to me. The fact that they managed to nail down so many high-quality titles. Now, I mean, obviously it helped. Back with XBLA, Microsoft actually published most of these games. So almost all of the ones you're seeing, I believe, were Microsoft published. That's something that obviously makes it easier. You know, like Comic Jumper, Twisted Pixel, but Microsoft published. Ninja Beat, Microsoft published. Joan Danger, again, Microsoft published. So, like, the fact that so many of these are Microsoft published probably made the deals a little bit easier. Whereas, you know, now that we have ID at Xbox, there is not that same publishing thing going on. But, hey, whatever works. I honestly think you're getting a really good set of games if by some fluke you have not played most of these. And, like, this is a pretty solid list. Like, the more I look it over, the more I'm like, yeah, they did a good job. So, I mean, obviously these are older games. Not really anything super recent, obviously. I think the most recent probably being Halo 5. There might be an indie game or two that just snuck in there to kind of fill a void that might be earlier than, or more recent than that. But, like, it's really, really pretty solid what they've done. And I just wanted to give you guys kind of my quick thoughts on this list and some feedback. If you guys have any questions about any specific games on this, I've played almost all of them, at least some. Especially the Xbox One indie games, as well as the XBLA games. If you guys want to chat about them, feel free. If you guys have any questions, just leave them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. Please do like and subscribe as well as share this video. It really helps us out a ton. We really want people to know about the content we're putting out, and that's the best way for us to kind of spread the word, is to have you guys who like this stuff share it with your friends. So thank you guys so much, and later.